Hello. This is a reply to a comment, I think it was Pardon What, who reopened the debate on selflessness. Is there any such thing as a selfless person? Actually, I think he expressed it, isn't everything we do selfish? Let's just check it. Oh, I can't. The answer is yes. Everything that we do is self-centered. That's what he said. And I thought that description, self-centered, sets the argument or discussion a bit clearer. Because when you go into selfish and selfless and things like that, the words aren't very good. But when you go into self-centered, as he said, that kind of makes everything clearer. It's a much, the other things are kind of, could be philosophical or something, but when you say self-centered, it's a kind of expression, or two words together, that everybody understands, self-centered. And it's got a connotation of being bad. So if it happens to be that, the being that will be added to that connotation and will be bad as well. But I really don't think it should be, because we are speaking kind of philosophically. And I might talk about words if I can remember at the end of this. So is everything that we do self-centered? Yes. Because I don't think a human person, brain, is capable of doing something it doesn't want to do. That is, the human brain is a calculating machine that calculates and comes up with an answer. And that answer is whatever the answer is. God. See, I don't want to go into, you know what I don't want to go into. But okay, self-centered. Just think, if you wanted to do it, to say prove it the other way, that you can do something that is not self-centered, think about something after the video, after I've finished speaking. Just try and think of an example of what you or somebody else could or would do, or has done or might do, that would be not self-centered. You go through, most all of it's easy, so you've got to really go for a hard one. And I think when you get to a hard one, where it's kind of in the balance and you really have to think about it, the one I thought of was, let's say your old mum or your old dad, whatever, is getting a bit creaky and croaky and can't look after him herself. So you give up your, let's say, career. Let's make it a bit like that. And you go and look after them and see them out for 5 years or so. That seemingly is a selfless act. Nick, that was another reminder coming into the Nick brain. Don't forget to talk about words at the end of this. That seemingly is a selfless act. But what we get to is I, who've given up work and gone to look after old parent and seen them out, would not be able to live with myself if I had not have done it. The brain had made the calculation that I would not be able to live with myself if I had not done it. And that is the level that we're talking on, not just conversation down the pub, words level. The brain has made a calculation that I could not live with myself if I did not give up my promising career, or ultimately fantastic paying career, and go and look after my old mum. Yeah. So you see, it's not a selfless act. And I don't think, see you down in comments, you'll be able to come up with anything that wouldn't fit that exact pattern. You'll find some things that seem fantastically selfless, that being the opposite of self-centered, perhaps, only words. But ultimately, I think you'll find that calculation involved, and it's got to flop over to the other side. If you accept that if you cannot live with yourself, if you don't do something, then it's not actually selfless. But if you want to describe something that I can't live with myself, so I'll do it, and it still's a selfless act, that's just words. And that's what I'll get to. Okay, so because that was a lot of words and a bit garbled, see if you can come up with a selfless act and then apply to it. Is it selfless, or is it that you couldn't live with yourself if you didn't do it, or some sort of similar thing? Or the obvious one. I haven't even mentioned the obvious one, but just in case you haven't got to it because it's so obvious, the kind of Mother Teresa thing, that you're doing these seemingly selfless acts, but really you're getting a hell of a buzz out of it. That side. Right, I think I should throw in, just for my ego's sake, I'm not trying to denigrate anybody or doing or of anything. I'm just using words and as their descriptive bollocks. I just said what I did. Anyway, words. Forgot what I was going to say about words now. Yeah, okay. Words. Not a nice person. Horrible thing to say. A nice person. All right. We all have used that kind of descriptor. He, she is a nice person. Now, I think what I want to say is that's just a label. I've used this word label before. That's just a label. The person is not a nice person doing a nice thing. It's just that there is a person doing something, and externally we from the outside label that doing nice, and then pro rata label the person nice if they do enough of those nice things. And I think that comes up with the self-centered stuff as well. So it's to be borne in mind that people do doings and other people do labellings. Obviously the doer can be a labeller at another time and the labeller can be a doer at other times. But there is doings that the person does, and then the external world labels that doing. And this is to express that not to get hung up on words just because I'm saying that the world is ultimately selfish, if you want to put it that way. It doesn't actually mean anything. It's only words. But to stress the word power, it's to understand the labelling that we do. That brains just get on, people just get on and do things, and then we label that as nice or not. And it's very, very circumstance dependent. As in, it's the old let's go to the war thing, because it's so easy to understand what I'm talking about, because what I'm talking about is quite difficult. What you do in peacetime will be labelled one thing. When the context changes, in other words, when the context of the labellers change, the labelling will change as well. Yeah? I don't think I need examples of that, do I? You can think of your own. You know that circumstantial labelling, that's a bit confusing, is what is always pertinent. That is what always is going on. The labelling will be dependent on the memes of the day, on the ideas that are going round of the day. The person is just doing. They might be trying to fit in with the meme of the day, the circumstance of the day, so they will get a particular label. But then that is what they're doing. Most of the time people are just doing, and the world just labels them. But the stress of this video is the world has labelled that person and their actions as something, but it does not necessarily mean that the person was actually doing the label or therefore is the label. As in, let's go back to nice, although it doesn't do it very well because it's such a fuzzy, ever-used word. Just because the world says that what somebody is doing is nice, therefore they are nice, is true, but only in the circumstance that pertains and only in words. Yeah? That's the world that we kind of inhabit, is words. So let's flop right back to the beginning and try and finish this. What we do is what we do. We come up things, we always do things without knowing what we're doing. We've done them before we realise we've done them. And when we've done them, they're done. Nothing we can do about them. So we do something, and then the world will label what we've done. And I think the accurate label for a brain doing something is that it will always do self-centered things, because that is the best descriptor of the calculation that a brain will make. It will not do something, it can't do something that it thinks is bad for it. Ultimately, it just won't do it. It will do the other thing. If it thinks jumping on the landmine is the classic, you think, well, that can't possibly be good for the brain. But it has decided that it is. How do we know it thinks it was the best thing? Because it did it. Whatever it does is what it thought was best for it at the time. And that's coming up to the 14 minutes. So that seems to be the limit for the moment. So let's leave it there, because it's all just words. And words, there's a song there, but let's not go into that. Words we can get really wrapped and up and confused in and fail to understand their lack of importance. What actually, if you can get to relating to what actually is happening as opposed to getting caught up in the descriptive words, that might be better. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. Maybe you have. Tell me about it. But words are terribly overrated. Oh God, I was about to go into feelings then. Shut up, Nick. Bye.